was wondering what music they were going to play for me, so I'm just grateful it wasn't Lady in Red or something. So, first of all, I'd consider it a success so far today, because the last time I spoke on a stage, I tripped on the last step, which lightened up the humor in the hall. So today's a success already for me. But I just want to say, when I got the invitation, and thanks to Richard for linking me with John, I didn't think twice about it. Even though next Sunday I have to be in New York for the US Open, I left another coach who was a former player with the player I'm working there. He wasn't too happy about it, but I thought, Switzerland? No ways, I'm passing down that one. And of course, before you come to Switzerland, you have to lose around about 3 kilograms or 7 pounds, because the chocolate is just amazing. And of course, you think of Switzerland, you think of Toblerone. But here's the thing about Swiss chocolate, even the bad chocolate is good. You know, the bad chocolate in America is really bad, but the bad chocolate here is still good. So that's something you learn very quickly. I purposely came a little bit earlier to catch some badminton, because I'll be honest with you, it's a sport I've never watched live. And I just have to say that when you watch this game live, it is incredible. You know, because obviously I think that the camera view on TV is from the back. So you don't really see the speed that when you're sitting on the side. You know, I was watching the Germans play yesterday doubles, and I got a headache. I just couldn't keep up, so I had to move to the back to watch it, but incredible. I've had the privilege to obviously work in tennis and squash with the world #1 tennis player, the world #1 squash player, Ramia Shur, the #1 woman, Nicole David. Unfortunately, I haven't had the opportunity to work with badminton, but who knows? If I network and build some relationships, it might happen. So, but huge respect for the sport. I've got a few housekeeping things here as well, and I never want to forget about it once I get into it. I have a book giveaway as well after the presentation, signed. And there's going to be a question in today's presentation that I'm going to ask at the end. And it might not be up on the board, but I encourage you to take notes. It's a pretty easy one. So take notes, and you could be walking away with the 7 keys to being a great coach. I also want to add, and I always say this, that if you only take one thing away today or from this whole conference, it's been worth every cent and worth your time. I also see if you read a book, for example, read 300 pages of a book, and there's just one thing that you take from that book that moves you forward, either in your career or in your life, it's been worth it. So hopefully you're going to take away a lot more than one thing. I know there's a host of incredible speakers here. I feel humbled to be part of that panel, but I know for sure I'm going to be taking a lot of notes. Something that always rings in my mind, I was sitting behind the coach of the Miami Heat, Erik Spoelstra, at a basketball seminar, and I'll never forget the presentators that were coming on. I mean, Erik Spoelstra, NBA champion, coach champion. He was the manager and coach of LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, all these players. If you don't know basketball, my apologies. And there he was, writing down notes furiously. And this is the NBA top of the game. It didn't matter who came onto the stage, experienced, young, male, female, Erik was taking notes. And the great John Wooden, the UCLA basketball coach, who's hailed as probably one of the best coaches ever, same as well, taking down notes. Because as we know with age, you can't remember everything, and you forget quite a lot. I always like to do this at the beginning to give thanks and say thanks to everybody who's made this happen, because if we run out of time, then I feel pretty guilty that I didn't say thanks. But John Shearer, Jack, of course the Swiss Federation, Robert, I'd just like to acknowledge you for putting on the Para-Badminton as well. Paralympics and Parasport is very close to my heart. I work with the United States tennis team, who are the world champions, and I work together with the US soccer Paralympics teams as well. It's something I took on 3 years ago, when I challenge people to challenge themselves, to get out of your comfort zone, to become a better coach, a better leader, whatever it may be. And I asked myself, Allistair, you're asking others to get out of their comfort zone and to get uncomfortable. What are you doing to get uncomfortable? And I thought about it. Getting up to give another presentation or working with another professional athlete wasn't getting me out of my comfort zone. So I decided to give the United States Tennis Association a call, Jason Harnett, who runs the wheelchair division there, and I said, I'd be super keen to work with you. Let me tell you this. At first, it scared the living daylights out of me. I was researching, I was reading, I was asking people, what do you do with this population? And it got me out of my comfort zone. It got me into something I had no clue about. Of course, I'd watched it before. But I just want to encourage you, if you get the opportunity to work with parasports, Parabadminton, or whatever it may be, do it. It is incredibly rewarding. And let me tell you another thing. They are incredibly motivated and determined. I would even have to say sometimes more than able-bodied athletes. That's something I picked up with parasports. They have an incredible desire to succeed. So, carrying on, obviously the BWF, Richard, Rodrigo, the sponsors. I know I've probably left out some people here, but thank you so much for putting on this amazing event, and of course this week. So I'd like to start here with some questions, and I'd like you to think about it. You don't have to answer these out, but let me start with this. Why do you do what you do? I'm going to ask that again. Why do you do what you do? Why do you coach? Why do you teach? Why do you lead? Whatever area you may be in, why are you a physio, whatever. Why do you do what you do? Besides a paycheck, okay, because we've got to put food on the table and pay our rent, why do you do what you do? And I'm going to give you 10 seconds to think about that, or 20 seconds. Write these things down, because I'm going to challenge you with some questions today that I'd like for you to ask yourself. And I obviously don't want to pressure you into you have to come up with this answer in 10 seconds. But that is an important question to know in what you do, is why do I do this besides a paycheck? You've heard, especially these days, the buzzword is about your purpose. If you don't know why you do what you do, you probably don't know your greater purpose. And as we know, a purpose is serving something greater than yourself. And for me, coaching is serving something greater than yourself. In fact, Mark Zuckerberg gave a commencement speak at Harvard 2 years ago. It's on YouTube. I encourage you to check that out. And he spoke about finding your greater purpose. Because it's a buzzword, right? We've all heard of purpose, find your why. Simon Sinek, find your why, etc. But do you know what your purpose is? Because when I found my purpose, and I'm going to be going into this a little bit more tomorrow in the Champion-Minded presentation of how you can find your purpose. It gives me motivation on my bad days. I might seem positive, motivational speaker, so on and so forth, but I am just like you. I wake up sometimes not feeling motivated, not feeling like getting up. But when I find my purpose, which I have, is serving others, inspiring others that they can go on and inspire others, so passing that down the chain, that's what gets me up in the morning. Okay? Positive people aren't always positive. You want to know the difference between positive and negative people? Positive people are able to move on faster. Negative people hold on to the problem. Tony Robbins said the difference between successful and unsuccessful people is successful people come up with solutions quicker. He's worked with CEOs, he's worked with the president, he's worked with the most powerful people in the world. And they asked him, what is the commonality of successful people? It's that they come up with solutions faster. And in coaching and leading, there can be no better quality than to come up with solutions faster. Problem solving. Okay, how long do you stay on the problem, and how long do you move on from that? My second question for you. Let me just double check that. Let me ask you this question. Think back in your career, maybe you played badminton, maybe you played another sport, of how many coaches you had. Okay? I know thinking back that's pretty difficult, but plus, minus. Think about when you started, how many coaches you maybe had. Was it 12? Was it 8, 20, whatever it was. I'm going to give you a few seconds to think about that. It doesn't have to be the exact amount. Okay? How many coaches did you have growing up until you finished maybe your badminton career, or maybe you're still playing right now in a league, for example? Let me ask you this. Out of those 20 coaches or 10 coaches, how many of those made an impact on your life? Okay? They might have made an impact on your game, but out of those, let's say 20 coaches, how many made an impact on your life? Is there anyone in the audience that wants to share with us a number? For example, 10 coaches, 2 impacts. Anybody? Just shout it out if you want. There's no wrong answer here, so. Anybody? Yes. 10 coaches, how many made an impact? 1. Okay. Anybody else? 8 coaches, how many made an impact? 2. Okay. Let's go for one more. Anybody? Yes.
3 coaches and impact made more, 10 or more because.
So you had 10 coaches.
No, I had 3 coaches myself, but I inspired also from different coaches.
Okay, super. So you looked outside as well. Well, that percentage is about right. It's less than 10% of coaches make an impact. And I want you to ask yourself, why did they impact you as a player? Okay? That's where I'm going to start right now, is with the word impact. I looked it up on the online dictionary, and this is what it came up with. To create a significant emotional effect on another human being. Pretty powerful, right? Coaching? I think so. Or leading. Number 2, to have a memorable or persuasive influence on others. Okay? Before you can impact others, you have to have an influence on them first. Cohesion, competence, care, confidence. These things that we look for in a coach and a leader. And number 3, the ability to express in a way that leaves a deep, desirable impression on another person. Take a photo of that if you want, but the word impact for me describes effective coaching and leadership. Right there, impact. I want to ask you now, right now, coaches, are you making an impact on people's lives? Okay? You got that? I always feel famous when they pull out all the phones. I think they're taking photos of me, but it's the presentation, so. By the way, when I wear one of these speakers, I feel a little bit like Britney Spears as well. You know, that video. That was my age group growing up, you know. So I just want to say, oops, I did it again. But you don't want to hear me singing. So, 7 Keys to Being a Great Coach. It's a book I wrote 4 years ago, my experiences in coaching. Now, I know there's probably a lot of coaches here that have way more experience than me. I'm the same, love to learn from everybody. But I compiled my experiences. Now, we could list 50, 100 keys to being a great coach, but these were the 7 that I got it down to. Number 1, standards. Your standards. First of all, your personal standards. What you stand for, your values. Okay? What you accept, what you don't accept. In other words, how you take care of yourself. Not just from a health point of view, but a mental point of view and relationship point of view as well. That's the first one, is your personal standards. Because our greatest example in coaching is ourselves. Okay? We can't influence if we're asking our athletes to do something and we're doing the complete opposite, because your athletes are watching, especially the little ones. They're definitely watching. I'll never forget, now I'm obviously not going to mention names, I did some work for the Dutch Tennis Federation back in 2004. And there was a coach there who was a little bit overweight. And the one morning, and obviously the kids would know he'd bring in junk food and so on and so forth. And the one morning he was going to give a talk to the kids about eating healthier and bringing better snacks to the practice. You can imagine how that went down. Kids are there sitting there thinking, well, you don't, so why should we do it? And that's how kids think. Parents, you'll agree with me, they'll catch you out in those 1 or 2 things, right, that they remembered. Number 2, your organizational standards. And this is very closely linked to the culture within your organization. And leadership is driven from the top. The culture is driven from the top down. A great leader has to be that example. Culture is something that I'd love to go in more, but we obviously don't have the time today. But before you can have a great culture, you have to be clear on what your culture is going to look like, or what you want it to look like. I consult a lot of colleges in the United States on culture and leadership, and the first question I ask is, what do you want your culture to look like? And a lot can't answer that question. I said, when you come up with that, let me know, then we can move forward to the next stage. I'm very, very privileged to be able to travel around the world and work with colleges in the United States of visiting cultures, teams, professional teams, you name it. And I get to see all different types of cultures. You know how I explain culture? Beliefs, which drive behaviors, which drive results. Your beliefs drive your behaviors, which drive your results. You know what culture is as well? An experience. What experience did you have when you walked into this hall today? That's a culture. What experience do you have when you walk into a Starbucks? That's culture. It's the experience you have. What experience are you giving your athletes when they come into your building? That's culture. Number 3, the standards you have for your players or your team members. Okay? It's important for your athletes to know what the standards are. This is something that I feel a lot drop short on. Coaches, managers, academy owners, etc. There's a gray area there. What are the parents allowed to do and what aren't they allowed to do? Are they allowed on the court or are they not allowed on the court? Okay? Dress code, language, time management, all these things have to be addressed before. Okay? In my personal career as a coach, when I was able to lay down the standards, it made my life so much easier, especially with parents, of where the boundaries are. And if they didn't like it, we weren't going to be a good fit. And believe me, I've had to get rid of some, I call them families, because when you're working with a kid, you're working with a family. You're not working, a 9-year-old can't make decisions, right? So you're working with the family. But they have to know what the standards and the boundaries are. In fact, in the 7 keys to being a great coach, I list those standards, and there's 17. So some might think, my goodness, that's quite a bit. But I made sure I covered every avenue in those standards. Again, time management, dress code, the way we communicate to each other. And those apply to kids as well. We don't shout at each other. We let somebody finish speaking. These small little things. Okay? Especially, I live in the United States, and it's quite a challenge there as well. Okay, so believe me, I'm in it. I coach as well, so I'm in the melting pot. So again, I have 17 standards. What are your standards for your players or for your athletes? That's important to have that. Even if you work where you're not the owner, you're not the head coach, you're not the main honcho, you still need to have standards for your class, your lessons example of how things are operated. Otherwise, it just runs chaotic. All Blacks rugby team, which we know are probably one of the most successful cultures in the world, or the most winningest team. That's tough coming from someone that lived in South Africa to say that. I put standards before everything. It's one of the main keys to the success of our culture within the All Blacks. Okay? Does a culture guarantee you success all the time? No. But does it give you a better chance? Yes. Do the All Blacks win all the time? No. But do they win 88% of the time? Yes, that's a pretty good record. Okay? And we see there's a fantastic book. I'm going to list some books today that you can check out. Legacy. Easy read. It discusses the 15 principles of the All Blacks and their standards. Even if you don't like rugby, I recommend it's a great book. And that's it, coaches. Let's not be blinker coaches. Let's look outside of our spectrum and learn from other sports, learn from other industries, entertainment. I learn a lot from ballet. It's one of the toughest disciplines is ballet. The Bolshoi Academy in Moscow has taught me more than probably anywhere else. And I've worked with some of the Russians there as well, and the director. Incredibly hard, incredibly. I had actually a slide here before, but I whittled it down for time, but it was with their director talking about standards. Okay, so check out the Bolshoi Academy if you're looking at improving your standards. Number 2, our second key is your method, your philosophy, your system of coaching. Let me ask you this. Do you have a methodology in coaching, a system, the way you coach? The second question is, if I asked you to explain that to me, would you be able to explain that to me clearly? Or would you be, well, I'm not quite sure. Because if I was to be standing here and I wanted to hire a coach for my team, my player, my academy, I know I'm sitting looking at a group that are experienced, you have knowledge, you have all the certifications, you've maybe had experience playing, that's great. My question to you would be, what is your method in coaching? If you struggle to answer that question, I'd probably bypass and go to the next person because you don't know what you stand for. You have a bit of an idea, but there's no clarity there. How your players are supposed to know what your system and methodology is if you're not 100% sure yourself? Building your method is always not set in stone because you might learn something today or tomorrow and you might think, you know what? I think I'm going to change the way I warm up. Or I'm going to change one or two things, tweak that. That's fine. A method is never set in stone. But it's important to have one. If you don't, that's fine. Take a pen and paper, write down in what you believe in. I believe in warming up this way. I believe a progression of we start short on the court, then we start to move backwards with our warm-up. We play deep, we play high, whatever it may be. Document it. This is what I like. I like to do the more intense drills first, so I have my athletes' attention. Because we know once they get fatigued, it's very hard for them to think about more technical things or whatever it may be. And then something I do in my coaching, in my methodology, is I like the player to either finish with what they want to finish with, or I know what they enjoy, which is fun, and we finish off the last 5-10 minutes for them. Because the key is that you leave your players and athletes feeling positive and pumped when they leave that building, that they can't wait to get back in. There has to be, especially with this generation today, there has to be a give and take. It cannot work like it did 20 years ago where it's my way or the highway. You do what I say. This is the program today. This generation, Generation Z, who are now 23 years old, the millennials are 24 to 40. In case anyone didn't know, millennials are no longer 17. The Z generation are now 13 to 23. It's moving fast. And they're changing the way they communicate. They're changing the way they interact. We look at what's gone from Facebook to Instagram to Snapchat. It's getting faster and faster and faster, the information and what they take. We have had to become Twitter coaches. Get your message across in 3 lines or less. Clear. John Wooden was way ahead of his time. If you don't know what John Wooden is, UCLA basketball coach, most successful. He would speak in short bits. Here's a funny thing for you. I didn't even realize it. My mother sends me a WhatsApp. She's on WhatsApp, which is great. Sends me a WhatsApp message back. And coaches, if you're not on WhatsApp, get on WhatsApp. Get with it. And she says to me, Allistair, why do you write in lines? So, I'll write there. Going to the shop today. Going to get some milk. She goes, why don't you just put it in one paragraph? I said, I don't know, but it's probably the way I coach. I coach in one-liners. Because my athletes are able to obtain it. I didn't realize it. And I also send texts like that. So I apologize to any of you who receive texts. Luis, you probably get texts from me that are one-liners, and you're like, this guy is like, sending 20 texts. So switch your phone off if you're busy. Right? But that's some of the little things in my methodology of the way I communicate. Why do we need a method? Because it provides identity to how you coach, to what you do. Okay? An identity. So, for example, in tennis, we have a very famous tennis coach called Emilio Sanchez, Spanish. Won a few doubles titles. He now lives in Naples. I spend some time with him sometimes down in Florida. But he had the Spanish way of coaching called the X-drill. When you speak about Emilio in the tennis world, they go, the X-drill guy. So there's an identity there, for example. Number 2, it's what you believe in. Coaches, stop comparing yourselves. Stop worrying about what other people are going to think because they're going to think it anyway, that you're crazy, you're nuts, you do it this way, you do it that way. It is better to have a method that is mediocre and to have your athletes believe in it than to have this amazing methodology or system and your athletes don't believe in it. Proof. Wimbledon champion, I think it was 2013 or 12, Marion Bartoli of France, good friends with her now. I watched her progression growing up as a junior into, now she's retired, that's how old I'm getting, as I'm seeing players that have gone through from juniors to retirement. She was laughed at. Her father coached her, and they used to call him the mad scientist. The warm-up of marionette tournaments would be with cables and chains and a 25-kilogram weight for her shoulder, and everyone would go, this is nuts. I remember one time in Sydney at a tournament, she was tied to that fence, and that fence. Now, like almost looks like, abuse in a way, but it was bungee cables, and she was just getting jaunted every single way. People laughed at her. And I'll be very honest with you, I did to a degree as well. Okay? But guess what? She believed in the craziness. She believed in the method of her father. And she got to the Wimbledon final in 2011 or 2012. Lost. And came back the next year to be in the Wimbledon final and win. That is incredible. Back to back. World Championships, for example. Wimbledon. We all know Wimbledon. No one would teach that method. When I asked a group of tennis coaches, hands up who will teach the Bartoli method, not one hand goes up. They're like, mm-mm. She was number 5 in the world, and she won 2 Wimbledon titles, and she retired pretty financially sound. So there you go. The buy-in is the most important thing. The buy-in and the believe-in. Okay? Number 3, it's your applied practices, protocols, and concepts. And I'm sure you're going to learn a lot this weekend or these next 2 days as well. Method. It's what you do, your plan, your activity. It's why you do it, your purpose. And number 3, it's how you do it, your plan. What? This is what I do. This is why I do it. And this is how I do it. Those are 3 good guidelines to how you build a method. The thing that distinguishes great coaches from other ones isn't so much about their methodology, even though it's important, but more about their ability to get their athletes to believe and buy into it. So stop worrying that you don't have the perfect plan or the perfect methodology. No one does. Stick with it. Believe in it, because your athletes are looking at you to believe in your system, your method. And again, I'll say it. You'll be spoken about anyway. You'll be laughed behind your back. That's coaching. Okay? Doesn't matter. My coaching philosophy, have a defined purpose to everything you do. Build and nurture relationships. Lead by example. Open and honest culture. And appreciate others. There was a study done last year, I think it was the Harvard Business School, of why people leave jobs in the United States, and I'm sure it's the same all over the world. 58% leave jobs because they don't feel appreciated. I'm asking you as coaches, leaders, whatever you may be, is how much do you tell others you appreciate them? It is the greatest motivator there is. It wasn't because of salary, it wasn't because of vacation days, it was because they didn't feel appreciated. And we can translate that to relationships as well. Why do relationships break or marriages break? Because there's a lack of appreciation between 2 people. Okay? Number 3, the ability to adapt. Charles Darwin said, it's not the strongest who survive, it's not the most intelligent that survive, it's the ones who are able to adapt survive. Okay? And especially today with the changing times, the generations, etc., if you don't adapt, it's going to be tough to go further in this career, believe me. We are now working with Z generation. Millennials are moving on. Okay? Under 23s don't think the way the millennials did. It's different. Okay? We're going to speak about that in a bit as well. Number 1, when change or the unexpected occurs, how do you react? We spoke about problem solving. How do you react? And we know in coaching that the unexpected occurs pretty much every day, right? Injuries, your athlete is caught in traffic, maybe you are. You lose your best player at a world championships. How do you react as a coach? Do you go into panic mode? Or do you go into, we got this? Because that's what your athletes and your players want to hear, and your fellows. Okay? Then saying, hey, or even worse, getting the wrong name. Hey, Carol. It's like, no, it's not Carol. But learn people's names. One of the things I do to learn a person's name, and I'm another area I'm still working on, by the way, so my apologies if I get your name wrong, is I say the name 5 times in my head when I hear it. Unfortunately, I missed the next question that they ask. But I need to remember their name. It's worked for me. Number 3, compliment others. Number 4, communicating well, listening well. Number 5, being empathetic and having humility. Number 6, being more interested in others than yourself. Number 7, not criticizing, complaining, or condemning others. Number 8, not getting into arguments or heated discussions, especially online, coaches. Please don't get into heated discussions about somebody's backhand or somebody's whatever match or whatever it may be. I'll be honest with you, I do my homework before I work with people. And if they're on social media arguing with people and making fires, I don't want to collaborate with them. You know, that personality, that controversial person all the time. You know, you see them in every discussion. Showing appreciation and recognizing any slight improvements. You know, confidence is like a wall. Through the little recognizing the small little improvements daily, you put a brick on the wall, and you put another brick on the wall, and you put another brick on the wall. Okay? Condemning, criticizing, looking at what's not right breaks bricks down off that wall. This is how I explain it to athletes. You're building a wall of confidence. Each day, by criticizing yourself, being a perfectionist, nothing's ever right, bricks down. Recognizing the small little things that you're doing well, that's how you build bricks daily. Yes, a great win, a great tournament improves your motivation, your confidence a little bit, but it's the daily building of confidence bricks. You know what? I think I had a great workout, warm-up, brick. You know what? I really hydrated well today. I snacked, brick. You know what? My self-talk was really good today in practice, brick. Confidence. That's how you build it, okay, in practice. Number 6, fundamentals. Whew. Aren't we distracted today with YouTube and everything? You'll see those videos that have 2.5 million likes, probably have some jingly music. They're packaged well. There's bells and jingles, and there's order today and get this for free, or whatever it may be, and we're sold. Steve Kerr, head coach of the Warriors basketball team, NBA team, 2-time champions in the last 4 seasons, I think. He always goes back to a book that was written in 1966 by Vic Braden, The Inner Game of Tennis. He goes back to that book at the beginning of every season. Fundamentals. The fundamentals don't lie. Okay? Are you being distracted by the noise on social media today, or are you going back to the fundamentals? The best coaches I've worked with are great in the fundamentals. David Ledbetter in golf. I've had golfers who've gone to David Ledbetter. He's the guru of golf in Florida. Simple. Grip, stance, head. Repeat. Grip, stance, head. To players that have won majors. You're like, there's nothing revolutionary there. Exactly. The best athletes are the best at the fundamentals and the basics. They can handle boredom better than the rest. They find joy in the monotonous activity of doing repetition and staying with the fundamentals. It's the foundation to skill mastery. Number 2, success is being brilliant at the basics. And number 3, know them, teach them, repeat them. Especially young coaches here, if you don't know the fundamentals well enough in your sport, or anybody for that matter, go back to them. Go back to years of those founders and those forefathers of the sports that you're in, and learn from them. We can learn from everybody. I go back to the fundamentals. Number 7, our last one in 7 Keys to Being a Great Coach. And today you're investing in yourselves, and I acknowledge you for that. There's 100 other places we could be right now. We could be watching matches, we could be chilling out, whatever it is. We could be with our families, but you're investing in yourself. You're putting yourself in the top 7%. Again, I believe success is easy in coaching when you apply yourself to the 7%. 93% aren't doing it. Think about that. Okay? We don't get better by accident. We get better by purpose, by being deliberate in our daily habits and routines. Number 1, investing in yourself, your health, your well-being. Number 2, investing in your relationships. Of course, family first, and then those around you. Invest in them every day. Okay? It's so easy today, a short text. In fact, I put 20 minutes aside in the morning. I'm going to speak about this tomorrow, the routines I have in my life that I've developed, that have helped give me success, is 20 minutes in the morning of what I call thoughtfulness. Is where I intentionally think about people for that day who might be playing a match, they might be sick, their grandmother might be in hospital, they might be writing an exam, they might be going for a job interview, and I send them a message. That's what I do in the morning. I put 20 minutes aside. When I started that 4 or 5 years ago, I found my network increased tenfold. Because people thought, you know what? He actually does care for me. Or, oh, that's nice. I got a message for I haven't heard from him for 3 months, or whatever it may be. Thoughtfulness. You know? Or a message, hey, tough luck last night, tough match, thought you played well. Today's a new day. The sun will come up. Whatever it may be. Just thoughtfulness of others. That's how you build your relationships. And you have to be intentional. Number 3, investing in your career, which you're doing today. And I acknowledge you for that. 9 ways I invest. Read at least 20 minutes per day. Listen to podcasts. Purchase 1 book a month on Amazon. It costs what a hamburger costs. You know, depends where your priorities are. Learn from and observe other coaches and practices. How often do you do that? You know, I was invited, and thank you, Luis and Thomas, I was invited to observe the practice at FC Basel yesterday. I learned a ton. They probably don't realize it, but I learned. I learned energy. I learned interaction. Every single time I opened myself up to learn something, I learned. I learned from coaches that have been in the business for 1 year. Where I'm like, that's pretty good. I didn't think of that because I've always done it this way. Stay open-minded. Follow interesting people and pages on social media. Exercise at least 20 minutes per day. I get to interview successful people on my podcast, which is champion-minded, by the way. I'd love to get 1 or 2 badminton people on there as well, so I'd love to do that. And then watch interesting and informative documentaries. Okay. I don't watch TV. I purposely watch things I'll watch a movie. Yes, I'm not all in, but I don't turn on the news. Just, it's what is it? What's the ratio? 1 out of 8 things are positive. You turn on the morning news and it's just death and this and that, and it's like, you know what? That's how you start your day. Is with bad news. I'm not ignorant to what's going on in the world. Thank you, Twitter. I page through and see, oh, that's going on. Okay. But to listen to it and absorb it first thing in the morning, no. I choose what I want to watch. Documentaries, interesting things. I filter it instead of just let this regurgitation happen of noise. I can't stand when I'm in the airports, especially in America, and they have CNN or whatever it may be on. You know what CNN stands for? Constant negative news. Won't tell you what Fox stands for. That could be cut out. But just constant negativity the whole time. And this is your subconscious going all the time. And the last one, attend at least 3 self-development conferences a year. That's what I do. I usually make it more. Okay? I learn a lot from these as well. So a quick summary, the 7 keys in case you missed those. There they are. If you want to take a photo of that, or maybe you're writing down those things. Okay, good. The 2 main areas I'm investing in right now, and you guys have done incredibly well. Thank you for your attention and staying alert. I didn't have to sing and I didn't have to dance, so that's a good sign. I didn't trip coming up. That was good, so we're in a good roll here. The 2 main areas I'm investing in right now, emotional intelligence and understanding the generation codes. Those are the 2 areas I'm really putting a lot of time into. Human behaviors. Okay? What is emotional intelligence? Well, first of all, it's the control of your own emotions and understanding the emotions of others. Wow. Imagine if you got grip of that, right? Your relationships, your marriage, your whatever it may be, your work relations at work, your staff, your teammates, fellow coaches, whatever it may be. So we have, first of all, personal competence, yourself, understanding yourself better. Okay? Knowing what ticks you off and feeling that coming on and knowing to step away or to breathe and not say something you might regret. Okay? Or mouth off. Right? And then self-management. Being able to control, like I said, control your emotions. Something we'll go in a little bit tomorrow as well. And then social competence, understanding others better. Why they're acting like that, why they're angry, why they feel this way, and really, really getting into their shoes, as they say, and really understanding them. Okay? One of the important things in that, especially when someone comes to you angry, is always, one of the things I do, it comes from the chimp paradox. Okay? With Steve Peters, a great book, is let others finish, don't interrupt. Separate the facts from the feelings. Maybe you need some time and come up with a solution. A simple process. Let the other person finish. Ever been in a heated discussion and you want to jump in and it just gets more heated? Let the other person finish. And you'll find the more they talk, they probably start to calm down a bit because they see you're not, engaging it. And then they almost feel guilty that you're super cool and they're going crazy. Okay, I've had it with parents sometimes. And then they feel bad at the end. I'm so sorry I acted like that. And so, no, it's good. Okay, right. Understanding the generations. And how are we doing for time? 5 minutes in, according to my clock here. 10 things about this generation. They do not respond well. And you can take a photo of this whole slide after, which will probably help you. Do not respond well to an autocratic or dominant style of leadership. Number 2, we need to speak with them, not to them. Number 3, they tend to work in groups better. Hence the success of Google, of Yahoo, of Apple. Go to their offices and they're working around tables. They're working in groups. They're sitting on beanbags. They're playing table tennis. They're not in this secluded, if it's meant to be, it's up to me mindset. They love to work in groups. They love to collaborate. As for my generation, X generation, 70s, if it's meant to be, it's up to me. I can do it. I'll do it. I don't need anybody to help me. Okay? Not this generation. They're willing to do hard work, contrary to belief. They're connected digitally but disconnected socially. They have a lot of friends on social media, but when we have a face-to-face discussion with them, they're looking at their phone every 10 seconds. They seek quick results, instant gratification. They don't need us for information anymore. When I was a kid, I'd have to ask Dad or Mom or the teacher, where is Bali? Or these days, tick, 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 5 seconds, Google. I know where it is. And this generation are very smart as well. They'll double check you. If you say something like, 17% of the time that happens, you know what Johnny or little Kim does? No, you're wrong. It's 15%, Google says. Or Twitter. Right? Number 9, they are more ambitious and driven. And number 10, coaches, you either adapt or you die. I know that sounds very dramatic, but it's the truth. They'll find somebody else that is able to adapt and somebody else that they can get better on with. Let me jump out of the way there. I encourage you to invest yourself in understanding the generation codes. 2 good books. IY Generation by Tim Elmore and Unlocking the Generational Codes by Sophie somebody. If you go to Amazon, Unlocking the Generational Codes is one, and IY Generation is the other. If those are your next books, great. After mine, of course. Still relevant. I'm going to have to be quick on this. That first picture, Nick Bollettieri. I'm not going to read this. I wanted to, but I'm just going to give you a brief outline. Nick starts his day at 4 a.m. He's the director of IMG Tennis in Bradenton. Worked with 10 number ones, Agassi, Mary Pierce, Serena, you name it. Starts his day at 4 a.m., gets to the facility at 5. He does his own workout, has a quick breakfast, gets on court, does 5 hours in the morning, then does interviews, does another 4 hours in the afternoon, finishes his day at 7, picks up his kids to take them to baseball they play. He plays golf, he jet skis, and did I tell you he's 88 years of age. There's no slowing down with him. He travels more than me. It's insane. 88. There's no slowing down. And as he says in his word, it's all about attitude, baby. It's all about attitude. George Raveling, 83, talks about staying relevant, adapting to these generations. He wants to stay relevant, he says, until further than 100. Attitude is everything. Okay? Tani Ans, for any of you that are South African, that means Auntie Ans, is the coach of Wade van Niekerk, Fastest man at the moment. The only man to go world record for 400, only man to go under 30 seconds for 300 meters, under 20 seconds for 200 meters, and under 10 seconds for 100 meters. He's the only man. Broke Michael Johnson's record as well. He's coached by Tony Ans, who's 77. Still relevant. Still relevant. I speak to coaches sometimes, oh, I'm so old, I don't know, I'm not relevant anymore, and you know what? Nonsense. I'll show you another list of these people here. These are my inspiration. I'm thinking, man, I've got another 40, 50 years in this career. I'm not going to retire from something. I'm going to retire to something. Retirement's a dirty word. I'm going to retire and sit in a chair. I know I live in Florida. I could play some golf, whatever. But no, I'm going to retire to something. I'm still relevant. I want to still be relevant at 90. Hence why your health is so important. You're never too old to set another goal or dream. Remember that in life, you're only as old as you feel. Attitude is everything. Okay? Don't tell me at 65 you're too old and you're not relevant and so on. That's your choice. That's your choice to adapt and change. And change your mindset. You're still relevant. In fact, you'll be even cooler. I think Nick is the coolest dude at 88. I really do. I'm like, this guy's unbelievable. You know? 3 questions to finish off. What changes do you need to make in order to improve? Is it in your interpersonal skills, your ability to adapt? Is it you need to maybe invest more in yourself? What are those 3 things you need to change? Or should I say, what are the changes? Okay, identify them. What kind of impact are you making today? We started the presentation with impact. And again, look up impact if you didn't write it down or take a photo of that. It's the 3 most powerful lines I've seen. Describes coaching. Are you making an impact on the life of others? We saw the ratio, 2 out of 10, 1 out of 8. It's the same. When I ask any audience, it's around about 5%, never more than 10. Are you one of those 5% that are making a difference? Do you care? They don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Period. Okay? They will remember the coaches that made an impact on their lives, not just their game. And number 3, what legacy would you like to leave one day? We're all going to leave a legacy. We're all going to be remembered for something. What would you like to be remembered for? And how best would you like to be remembered? Those are ways to connect with me on social media. I'm pretty late to Instagram, by the way. Got a lot of pressure of that from the 11-year-olds and 12-year-olds. I'm not cool because I wasn't on Instagram. So I'm still figuring that out. But connect with me. Those are the portals right there. Books are available on Amazon. I actually have some here as well. But I know that we're going to have questions this evening, which we're going to address. And thank you for listening. I hope you enjoy the rest of the speakers. Thank you.